Hello and welcome to Love at Lunch. Today we are talking about overwhelm and how we can use a productivity tool to overcome overwhelm, reduce stress, get into action, be productive, and be focused. And find some more joy spots along the way. My name is Leona Devin. I am a coach and facilitator from Calgary, Canada, and I'm delighted to be here. I'm also the author of Finding Your Joy Spot, based on The Art of Flourishing. 5 components that help you flourish based on 40 years of research. I only did 11. We have scientists that did the other 40 years. But good science-based stuff. And today we're going to talk about overwhelm. I don't know about you, but this fall has started in a flurry. And there's been some delicious joy spots that have been acts of pure mercy and well lubricated grace for me. But there are moments that I have noticed that things are getting a little bit crazy. Here's why things feel even more intense. Our brains, bless them, sort and organize data in the front of the brain, the strategic part of the brain, the executive functioning, the prefrontal cortex. This prefrontal cortex, where we sort all things, is meant to manage about 4 to 5 things at a time. So it can strategically focus, find patterns perhaps, take data, make sense of it, help you stay organized and on track, whether that's about a circumstance that's happening or a deadline that you need to meet. And here's the challenge. We have probably 50 to 100 things that our poor little executive functioning part of our brain is trying to be strategic about, and it can't do it. So how do we mitigate that? We write it down. If you've read my book or know much about me, I am a journaling fanatic. Journaling is one of the key components of well-being. It is so good. So in this case, you don't have to write your feelings about it or anything. You're just going to dump your brain out. That's a form of journaling. Super good for you. You want to help your brain get the data that it's trying to manage and juggle, literally, like a bad pinball. Is that what it's called? Bad pinball game. Everything's going everywhere, and get it down. So you could do this on a weekly basis. If you find yourself feeling very stressed at times, this is a great way, period, to help your brain be able to function more clearly, just with the brain dump alone. So brain dump, great way to help mitigate some of that feelings of overwhelm. Because once your brain releases it and it sees it down on paper, then it's like, okay, number one, thank goodness this is my job. And then if you carry a step further, you can do something different with that data. So data dump. Nothing needs to be left out of this data dump. Let's say you're thinking about, I've got to replace the roof next year. Write it down because your brain is still trying to manage all of this. So there are no outliers here. Dump out all the data. Writing it out, typing it out, so good for you. Then we're going to do the 4 Ds. And if you've been here for a while, this may be a bit of a rerun, but I think it is best that we reiterate what the 4 Ds are. This is a productivity hack and it works ridiculously well. And so the 4 Ds are dump, defer, delegate, and do. I was doing some leadership training last week and we had a pitch list. So great. The stuff that we do that we don't want to do and we don't have to do. But we need to take a look at it to audit our lives sometimes to go, yeah, I ain't doing that. Okay, great. So go through your data dump list, your brain dump list, and you are going to cross out the things that you're no longer going to do. Done. I sense a joy spot sneaking in already. Some extra freedom. Then the next piece that we're going to do is delegate. So asking for help is one of the most challenging things. It feels incredibly vulnerable, but we can choose to be in the discomfort of having everything on our plate, or we can delegate. Last week, I was preparing my house to sell, and I delegated the cleaning. It cost me quite a bit, but I am so happy to say that I am standing upright and feeling better than I would have had I not delegated. So you may need to give yourself a permission slip or 7. I've got some permission slips right here in order to, number 1, dump things, and the other piece is to delegate things. So asking for help, paying for help, doing things differently. If you lead people, a team, a family, it is one of the key components of building trust is asking for help. Isn't that a delightful little consequence? So dump what you can and delegate what is also possible. And there may be a cost, but think of the return on investment of joy and peace and calm and clarity and space. That's worth it. The next piece is defer. If you're going to defer something, you need to have a trusted system, like a calendar that will remind you in the spring to do whatever you are currently deferring. So make sure you have a trusted system, because otherwise it's still going to bang around in your brain. And I would say if you put it on a piece of paper, probably not that trusted, because what if you lose it? Now, you could put it in a piece of paper and put a calendar invite that says, hey, check that out, piece of paper in file as such. So that is a possibility. But you want to have a trusted system. So if you don't use your calendar on your phone, which can remind you, it can be snoozed for whatever, then there may be some challenges. This is the time, if you are a calendar person, to either write it out in the future in a trusted space, or ensure that you are putting it in your electronic calendar where it can remind you. So for those of you just joining, the fall can be very full and feel like a bit of a flurry. So we want to give our brain a break by doing a data brain dump. Everything that's in our brain, dump it out. Then we want to scratch out all the things that we are choosing to dump. Yes, just not even thinking about it again. The next thing is delegate, ask for help, hire help, set some boundaries, do what you need to do. It feels challenging, but the ROI is big, and there is a joy spot waiting for you. Then defer, have a trusted system that you can defer whatever it is. Let's say you're thinking of starting a new initiative. I am planning to launch a course in January, so I've already got it in my calendar so that I'm not thinking about it as to when I need to start planning, launch dates, things like that. Trusted system, that's your key. And then do. Yay. So you're going to go through the do part, and you are going to see what your top priorities are. What are those priorities? So today, if you're watching my stories, I have quite a few emails that I come back to after the weekend. I do not check emails on weekends in the evenings. I am nevertheless drawn to them because they feel urgent. Sometimes a bit of a chain around my neck. And I think if I get those done, then I'll feel better. But the thing is, I keep going back and it distracts me. So when I think about do, today on my do list, I thought I have 3 priorities in order to prepare for this week, and don't do anything else that could be distracting. Then within those top priorities, I set out the very next step. So maybe that was checking in on a file, or going through a presentation, or putting the finishing touches on the presentation. So I write the very next thing. I don't just leave the project, I write out the very next thing, because that gives our brain a break. Our brain is strategic, and often it'll jump 2 or 3 steps ahead, and we have a hard time and we feel like we're procrastinating. It's just that we're not working alongside how our brain works best. So we think next step. If you have more than 3 steps in a do, then that becomes a project, and you might want to set that aside and think about all of those steps, and then set aside time as to when you can get those done. And then you can put these do's in your calendar, chunk like items. If you have to make a number of phone calls, or like today I had to answer emails, but I started work at 7 and said I will not check emails till 10. I got way more done than I thought. I set my phone aside, all the things, and I was able to check my email a little bit earlier and get on top of things. But you really want to prioritize well, and you want to help the way your brain works. And even though you are a genius, it needs a little help. So to-do list, and then always what is the very next step, and then prioritize that. You want to increase what in psychology we call the locus of control. You are able to control what it is that you focus on. Now, to a certain extent, you have tasks that must be done that may be given to you by somebody else, but you, in a lot of cases, can take control back of how you manage your time and how you get back on top of things. So, brain dump, and then think of the 4 Ds. I will post the tool for this so you can walk it through. If this is something you want to share with people on your team, then please do. And if I can be of any help or service, then reach out, and I'd love to connect with you and see what we might make together. Perhaps some magic. Lots and lots of love to you at this Love at Lunch. Have a wonderful, wonderful, super productive week.